race. Does the ATEM is the ATEM physically connected to that?
Yeah, they work together.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't have much experience with it. Really none. Stream Deck.
It says I got 2 instances open, and I don't see that. Oh, maybe that was it there. Why would I have 2 open? Why can't I just close them out? All right. Well, is everything going live right now? It should be, not quite.
So I mean, the broadcast was scheduled to go live right now, but it's not going to go live until we see that art. Well, again, it's going to be live. It's within the live window, but nobody's going to see anything, obviously, until we're getting data from the encoder.
All right, you're not getting any now, then.
Let me see. Let's double check in. Okay, now wait a minute. Now I'm seeing that it's online.
Okay, so
see if that's progressing. You might be. Okay, you know what? Here we go. You're good.
Yeah. Well, I'm good, except what's coming across right now, can you tell?
It's probably our phone conversation. So,
there's no music coming through?
No music. Just you and me talking.
All right. Well, I got I can now see myself. I'm on, and I was trying to get my other stuff going. I can't get that channel going yet, so I'm going to hang on just a minute. Just give me a little second to. All right. Let me see it. What happens here? That doesn't work. So anybody out there, are you seeing this? It should be recording. I don't know. All right, well, we're going to I'll skip all that. We'll go in here. I don't know what you're going to be able to see because I'm having problems with something took place here. I'll close that out. Oh, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. That's not showing up. There we go. Okay. Well, good morning. I guess you can hear me. I hope you can. This is probably all messed up. I'm sure it is, actually, but I'm going to try to get through this anyway. Anyway, my name is Paul Myrant. We host today. This is Morning Matters at 10. My name is Paul Myrant. Morning Matters at 10 is part of the Acts 17 Accord. We're committed to preparing God's people to live righteous, spirit-filled lives to the end of the age. I think we're here. We're going to continue a little bit about the end of the end of the earth, the end of the age, and I'm going to talk just a little bit here. We're going to talk about who the Antichrist is today, but this never really got posted. So let's look here at this. This is the 70th week of Daniel. To understand who the Antichrist is, we're going to need to understand the 70th week of Daniel, There's a number of different passages I want to look at today, so let's try to get through this. So 70th week of Daniel comes out of Daniel 9, 24 through 27. Let me pull that up for us here real quick. I'll grab another place here. Daniel 0 is what I typed in. All right. While I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel and making my request to the Lord my God for his holy hill, while I was still in prayer, Gabriel, the man I had seen in an earlier vision, came to me in swift flight about the time of the evening sacrifice. He instructed me and said to me, Daniel, I have now come to you to give you insight and understanding. As soon as you began to pray, a word went out on which I came to tell you, for you are highly esteemed. Therefore consider the word and understand the vision. 77s are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. Know and understand this. From the time the word goes out or went out to restore, From the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one comes, the anointed one, the ruler comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be put to death and will have nothing. The ruler of the people who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7, and in the middle of 7, he will put an end to the sacrifice and offering. At the temple, he will set up an abomination that caused desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. I'm going to try to get this here so we can see it a little better. Okay, so as we're looking at this thing is a mess, guys. I'm sorry. Very, very frustrating. Okay. I'm going to just try to work through it. I'll reteach it again sometime. If you can hang in there, you can. So you're going to see here, if I put this up here, you're going to see this is the 70th week of Daniel. And this is kind of the outline, the timeline of the Gentiles and the timeline of Israel. Now, this image, by the way, is from the Sign, Robert Van Kampen. I taught through this years ago, and we bought all of their material so we can use it. But he's passed away. I'm not sure where the people are, so if you know who they are, I can find them online. But anyway, this is from his book, The Sign. It's a great book. I recommend it. He is pre-wrath, and I think he makes a good argument for that. So if we just go through the timeline, we can see 726 on the bottom for the Gentiles to 626 Assyria. Then Babylon, the Assyrian captivity, that was the northern tribes, the 12 tribes, and the Babylonian captivity, Medo-Persia, Greece 37 to 63, Rome 32 AD, Messiah's cut off, 410 fall of Rome, church raptured after sometime between after 48 AD, and then the times of the Gentiles ends. And so if we look at it from Israel, we can see, again, you got Assyria. This was the northern tribes. They were never returned. They were scattered. They were dispersed. So most of the dispersion that takes place later happens with the nation, with the tribes of Judah. Then we have the Babylonian. Daniel has his vision in 539. We have the Babylonian captivity, the Medo-Persian captivity. The command to rebuild Jerusalem happens in 445 BC by Cyrus or Darius. No, Cyrus. Then Greece rules, and the abomination of desolation takes place. That is in the intertestamental period where Antiochus Epiphanes is a type of the final Antichrist, but he goes into the temple and he sacrifices a pig, and then the Maccabean revolt happens, and then they have some independence under the Maccabees until Rome comes in, 63 BC to 410, they start ruling. 32 AD, Messiah is cut off. Now, that was a prophecy that we just read. There will be 483 years, or 483 years from 445 BC to 32 AD. These are prophetic weeks. prophetic years. Those years, when that happens, the Messiah, it's actually, he comes in, it's a week before, it's just shortly before his death on Palm Sunday, is that 483 years. Later, we see the temple is destroyed. The destruction of the temple is a dual fulfillment. There was being prophesied it would be destroyed, but it's going to be rebuilt and destroyed again. It was already, it will be rebuilt again. And then we have the Great Diaspora. This is when Israel is spread around all nations. That goes up to 148 AD when Israel becomes a nation. And of course, we have the 70th week of Daniel is going to happen here. Now, most people put the rapture right at the beginning. Some put it at the post end of it. I believe it's right here about, I think, probably 5 years into the tribulation. We don't know for sure. And what's interesting about this, and I think it's worth looking at, and I had this on a different thing, but again, this is from Robert Van Camp and the sign. I can't really turn it for you. I had it turned and I accidentally erased it. This won't let me turn it, will it? No, it won't. Okay, so this again, we have the 8 beast empires, and this comes from Revelation chapter 7. So let's go to Revelation 17. 16 here, let's go. We'll go to 17. We looked at this a little bit a couple weeks ago, but let's look at it again. Take me a minute, click over here. All right, Revelation 17. So let me I can't really put this on the screen, but I'll just read it to you. One of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you punishment of the great prostitute who sits by many waters. With her the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her iniquities." I'm going to make this a little smaller so I can read it a little better. There we go. I had it on this huge full screen. Then the angel carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness. There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls. She held a golden cup in her hand, filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. The name written on her forehead was a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. And I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. Now this is really critical, because the spirit, this is a spirit, and it's a spirit that rules over nations, many nations. Now not every nation has persecuted Israel, but every nation that has, it's because of this. And it was Israel that was the people of God originally was Israel. From the Genesis 12 to the end of the Old Testament, it was Israelites that were punished and persecuted by people. And even though a lot of times it was by judgment, the people always went too far, and so there was judgment again. So anyway, the blood of the saints, that's been going on. It even went on all the way back to Abel. Abel was killed by Cain, who is of the same line. It's the same line. It's the whole point of the prostitute is that they're unfaithful to the God of the universe. They're unfaithful to the Creator. It's the whole thing we have in our society today that is so destructive. And as the church, we love people, we want to care for them, but we have this whole entire community of people, especially the LGBTQ community. Now, not everyone in there. There are a lot of people, kids, things that don't know what's going on, but the whole idea, the spirit behind it is a prostitution of the Christian faith. I mean, I had a meme sent to me, or a TikTok video of this woman standing up in the pulpit as a pastor saying, "Thank you for killing your baby. Thank you for your kindness of killing your baby." And we have pastors married, 2 women pastors pastoring churches. We have homosexuals in the pulpit. We have, and again, it's not just homosexuality. You have immorality of all kinds from people. You have pastors who are immoral and stuff, and that's certainly not acceptable in any way. But the LGBT community understand that all of these things go against the Word of God. They're not okay with God, and they're going to be judged. So is sexual immorality of any kind. God wants a holy church, and it's not just sexual immorality. It's greed and covetousness. It's lying. It's injustice. It's mistreating people. It's all the things that people do. But so there is this. When you're unfaithful to God and unto His Word, you become, and especially if you're a spiritual person, then you become a prostitute. and you've compromised the word of God. All right. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people and the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. Now, this has been going on for decades, but it really is, of course, happening now in the end times, very specifically. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. In fact, just the other day, there was a man in a Muslim country. I don't remember the name of the country, but they tied him up with ropes and beat him to death because he was sharing the gospel. Now, it's against the law in that nation, even though it's a Muslim nation, to do that. And they're going to arrest the person eventually, but he was out preaching the gospel and he got beat to death by some radical Muslims. And the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and the beast she rides, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast which you saw once was, and now is not, and as yet will come up out of the abyss and will go to its destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life, from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come again." So he's talking about the Antichrist. This is the Antichrist, talking about the Antichrist himself. He's going to be someone who once was, now is not, meaning he died. He was, he died, and now he's come back to life, or he somehow reconstituted. I mean, only God can raise the dead, but I guess Satan has power, given permission of God to bring this man back to life. All right, so let's read some more here. This calls for a mind of wisdom. Now, this passage, if we go back to, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if I can get it up there. Let's see. There it is. Oops, I keep getting rid of it. If you go to this image here, you're going to see there's 8 beast empires. Now, what they are is they're people that specifically persecuted and injured Israel. And it goes back, the first was Egypt. And you think about what the Pharaoh did. Twice, first of all, he tried to kill all the male sons. He tried to murder them. And another time he tried to kill all the males. Both times God intervened, and eventually God let them go. They got out and they were released from them, but they took a lot of things from Egypt, and Egypt never became the nation it was. It never recovered from it fully. But they were the first, again, trying to kill Israelites. The same thing with the Assyrians. And the Assyrians, they devastated the northern tribes, and they don't even exist. Their existence was lost. So he's saying this calls for a mind of wisdom. There are 7 kings. 5 have fallen. 1 is, and the other has not yet come. So if we go through this, if we look at this this chart here, you're going to go to 5 have fallen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is. Let me see if I got that backwards. It's hard for me to see this because it's not set up right. Oh no. Yeah, so the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians were the 3rd. The 4th were the Medo-Persians. The 5th was the Greeks, right? Antiochus Epiphanes, who eventually led to the abomination of desolation by, wasn't Antiochus, and it was Antiochus Epiphanes who did the desolations. It was Alexander the Great who started the Greek Empire. And then 5 have fallen, 1 is. Well, the 1 is the 7th kingdom. I keep clicking on that. The 1 is the 6th kingdom, which is Rome, which was ruling at that time. And then he says, so let's read on here. He said, there are 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come. Now this is critical. So he's talking 1st century, right? This is after, John was written 20 years after the fall of Jerusalem, at least. So 20 years after was John was writing this. So sometime between 70 AD, because at that time, and even more with the diaspora continued in 133 AD, there was no nation of Israel. They had no control over the land. They lived in it. There were people that continued there, but they weren't running it. They weren't a nation. That ended. That ended in 70 AD. And so you had from that time, so he's talking about the 1 that is, 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come. The 1 is Rome, the other has not yet come. Who is that? But when he does come, he must remain only for a little while. Now, these other kingdoms ruled for hundreds of years in cases, sometimes more. They ruled over them, and for many years. This one lasts only a short time, so it's important to remember. The beast who once was and now is an 8th king. So there's another kingdom coming. He's one of the seven. He belongs to the seven, is going to his destruction. So if we went back to Daniel, you would see the dream he had. He had the lion, the head of gold. That was Babylon. The arms of silver. That was the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, and then the Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire came, and then you had the 10 toes of iron and clay. They were mixed together. It wasn't just Rome, which Rome itself was of iron and clay. I mean, the Romans were really from Japhethites. They were Germanic, and they were the ones that actually started to inhabit. Well, Kittim were the first group, but the Germans were the ones that really built the Roman Empire. But that was also a mix, because you had the Italians, you have a lot of different nations that came together in Italy, what we would call Italy, but in the city of Rome. And so this final kingdom is one of iron and clay. So it's going to be something, they call it the revived Roman Empire. Well, it's not necessarily exactly that. I don't necessarily believe that's true. I believe it is, but it does happen from the Germanic people. So what's important here, let's go back to this. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. 1 hour, and in Revelation 2 and 3 talks about the hour of tribulation, the 1 hour. They have one purpose, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. They will wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. So I think he's talking about the Armageddon right there. The very end is going to happen, and that's when everyone will come back to earth and destroy, and then we'll enter into the millennial period. It's interesting that Adolf Hitler and the Kaiser both, they wanted 1,000-year reigns. Can you imagine Hitler ruling for 1,000 years, what the world would have been like? But he wanted his own millennium. Interesting. God's going to bring his millennium, but Hitler wanted his own. So who is this group? And this will lead us to how we find the Antichrist. So who is this king? So if we look here, I did it again. We go back, there's 5 have fallen, one has not yet come, but he must remain for a little while. Now you have to think about this, just practically speaking. If Israel's not a nation, what could they do? I mean, if you go back to Daniel chapter 9, can they, for you know this and understand, from the time the word goes forth, okay, let me skip down a little bit. Verse 27 talks about the Antichrist coming, the anointed one would be put to death, the people of the ruler will come, will destroy the city and the sanctuary. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7-year period. He will confirm a covenant. So this is one of the things, even when you look at like preterism, who confirmed the covenant? How did that covenant take place? Well, of course, they don't believe any of that. But the point of it is, how did this covenant take place? Israel was not a nation. I've been taught all my life that the Lord could come at any moment. There was nothing holding him back. He could come at any time. I don't now, and realizing it, I didn't understand it most of my life, but that's really not true. He couldn't have come before 40 AD. I don't think he could have come before the 67 war when Israel took control of the city, because he says he will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. Okay, let's back up here. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be put to death and have nothing. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of 7, he will put a sacrifice to end an offering at the temple. He will set up the abomination. So basically, he has to have control of the city. Israel had not only to be a nation again, but they had to control of the city. So technically, it would have been 67 AD when they had control of the city, because he made a covenant with them. So they had to be a nation. So up to that time, when they made that, if they became a city and controlled it, then the Lord could have returned at any time. So from 67 AD, but again, the key thing is the covenant. When this covenant is signed, that starts the 70th week of Daniel. It's not there. Now, again, most people believe, many people believe that we're gone by then. I don't believe that's the case. And we looked at, what did we look at last night? We looked at Matthew 24, right? Where Jesus says the great tribulation happens after the abomination of desolation. Same thing in 2 Thessalonians 2. He says, after the Son of Man is revealed. So I believe the church is here for that. And I believe the rapture happens, and it's interesting. We'll probably look at that. I don't know how much time I want to get into today, but even Revelations 6 through 8 may describe the rapture itself. In fact, you know what? Let's see here. Yeah, I got Revelation up here. Let's do that. Let's look at that. Revelation chapter 6. I don't think I can get this to you again. So let's go back to where you can see me at least. There you go. I keep messing. Some of my equipment's not working today. I apologize. Everything's a little bit off kilter. But whatever. It's just TV. It's just talking. Verse 6. Chapter 6, verse 1. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." I looked, and before me there was a white horse, and a rider held a bow, and was given a crown, and he rode out to conquer, bent on conquest. When the Lamb opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, "Come." Then another horse came out, a fiery one. The rider was given power to take peace from the earth, and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. When the Lamb opened the 3rd seal, I heard the living creature say, "Come." I looked, and before me there was a black horse, a rider holding a pair of scales in his hand. And then skip down verse 7. When the Lamb opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come." I looked, and before me was a pale horse. Its name was Death. And Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over 1/4 of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. Now, I believe this is actually exactly what's meant by the Great Tribulation. This is when the Great Tribulation is taking place. So this is after the midpoint of the tribulation. When I opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and the testimony they had maintained. They called out in a loud voice, "How long, sovereign Lord, how holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" Then each of them was given a white robe, and they were told to wait a little longer until the full number of their fellow servants, their brothers and sisters, were killed just as they had been. Okay, so I think we're still in the tribulation at this point. And, next thing that happens then, it says, I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned back like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to the earth as figs drop from a tree when it's shaken by a strong wind. The heavens receded like a scroll and rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. So there's this huge event. And I always thought it's interesting that this event, the thing about this event is, if you look at the role that evolution has played in the lies of evolution and creationism, and starlight and time and all the knowledge and beauty and wonderful that science thinks it's discovered, all the things that they have discovered, and ignoring and not giving glory to God for being the creator, ignoring his, trying to figure everything out apart from the creator himself, naturalism, anti-supernaturalism. When he comes, this thing is going to be like he shuts the lights off. Everything's dark. Whether the stars literally fall, I'm not sure, but everything's going to go dark for a period of time. Verse 15, then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and everyone else, both slave and free, hid in caves among the rocks. They called to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath, meaning God's wrath, has come, and who can withstand it? So, this event happens. I believe that this is the cutting short of the Great Tribulation. Revelation 12, he said, unless those days had cut short, no flesh would survive. All right? Now think of the language. Let's look at verse chapter 7. And I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, to prevent any wind from blowing on the land and the sea or any tree. And I saw another angel coming out of the east and having the seal of God. He called out with a loud voice to the 4 angels who had been given power to harm the land and the sea. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of God. So there's 2 things here. I think first of all, what he's saying is the 4 corners of the earth. There's no corners, obviously. This whole idea of, what do they call it? I've been looking at it lately. I can't remember, flat earth. Oh, there's corners. Well, that wouldn't make it they make a square, but it's not a square. And it's not a square. It's a circle. Everyone knows it is. It's conspiracy theorists. Anyway, he's just talking to everyone. That means everywhere. North, south, east, and west. That's what that means. And I believe he's talking about the rapture. I think the rapture happens here. And then after that, there's this time of waiting time, and he sets the seal on the people of God that are going to be saved. In verse 9, he says, "And after this I looked, and there before me there was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, and people, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes, and holding palm branches in their hands, and they cried out in a loud voice, 'Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and unto the Lamb.' And then the angels cried out." So who are these people? Well, that is the rapture. That is the church. All the saints from history are raised. Old Testament saints, New Testament saints, those have been killed up to that point in the tribulation. All of them, right? Why? Well, they have robes on. They have their new body. They're not just spirits under the throne. Now they have a body, so they've been raptured and they've been given their body. And that would include all those who were crying out earlier, because they now, remember, the dead go first. So everybody's there. This is the rapture. This is when this takes place. And he said, these are those in verse 14 or 13. It says, then one of the elders asked me, "These in white robes, who are they and where did they come from?" And he said, "These are those who have come out of the great tribulation. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore, they are before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple. And he who sits on the throne will shelter them with his presence. Never again will they hunger, never again will they thirst. The sun will not beat down on them, nor any scorching heat. For the Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd. He will lead them to springs of living waters and wipe away every tear from their eyes." So I believe this is the aftermath of the rapture. And he's still going to set aside that people of Israel, because what happens next? Well, chapter 8, is the wrath of God. Trumpets are sounded, and all the wrath of God is now poured on the earth. So the wrath of God is God's judgment. What we've seen before that was Satan's anger and rage at coming against the people of God. I think Israel first, and then all of those who, the church, the body of Christ that's still here. So we're all raptured at that point in time. Every Jew that's saved up to this point of the rapture is in the church, right? This is about God's judgment on the world for their treatment of Israel. Not just this is about Israel now. So that's what's really happening right now. Okay, so let's see here. So we've looked at these passages. I think I want to go back to. Let's go back to this here. I hope you can hear me when I do this. I don't know if it works out or not. So who is this seventh kingdom? Well, let's think about it. So between 70 AD and the nation of Israel becoming a kingdom again was, what nation of all of that time persecuted Israel like no one else? Because let's go back to the words that he said. See if I can get back to it here. Revelation 17. Five kings have fallen. One is that the other has not yet come, but when he does, he must remain a little while. Now, think about it. What is the characteristic of these nations? They're nations who have specifically murdered and destroyed and tried to wipe out Israel. So between the time of 48 AD, or 48 AD and 70 AD, 70 AD and 40 AD, what nation has done this more than any other? What is the worst nation? And only lasted a little while. Well, it's Germany. It was Germany in World War II. I have other notes here. So it would have to be this nation again. Here's characteristics. They would have to have been after the Roman Empire. They would have lasted a little while. Extremely cruel. Deuteronomy 28. They exist and end before Israel is a nation. Now, the kingdom of Germany still exists overall, But the Hitler, the Antichrist, he's gone. Again, he's a counterfeit millennium. Hitler was a Japhethite. The Germans are Japhethites. So I believe that this seventh kingdom was Germany. And it says, now this gets to who the Antichrist is. He only remains a little while, but one of these kings is the beast. The beast who once was and now is not is an eighth king. He belongs to the seven, is going to his destruction. So who does that describe? Now we've got Nero, we have all these different people, and there's other passages. So I'm going to leave it there right now. Just keep it in your mind. I think we're going to wrap up today a little early, but I think that we'll talk next week about exactly who the Antichrist is. All right. So I think when we see the Antichrist, we will. You'll be surprised who that's going to be. You can think about it between now and next time. Anyway, sorry for all the technical difficulties today, but I'm gonna go, and I will see you guys. I will see you next week at 10 if I can get out of this here. All right. God.